It's David Small with Team Small Robots here to give you another event report. This report will be on Motorama 2018 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I brought the Highlander, my 1-pound pneumatic flipper, and Gimli, my 150-gram vertical spinner. So the Highlander has seen some updates since AVC. The body of the robot is now Onyx instead of UHMW. The air capacity has been doubled. And then in the back we have a shiny new ram. The ram is about 4 times stronger than the old one, which would only put out about 11 pounds of force at 100 psi, while this new one can put out 45 pounds at 100 psi. In an attempt to get more flow, I ended up using 2 of the same solenoid valve and then ran off their connection wires together so that they'd fire at the same time. Unfortunately, for reasons I'm not entirely sure of, it did not end up working this way. One would fire, and then after a slight delay the other one would fire. But by the time the second one would go off, the cylinder was already up, so it pretty much made the whole thing useless. Every once in a while it would work though, and I would get basically a critical flip. And lastly, the drive system has been updated. To make up for all of the weight of the heavy pneumatics, I had to downgrade the motors to these N20s instead of using the 500 RPM kitbot motors I was using before. On the plus side though, I did find these slot car wheels to be very grippy and actually a little bit lighter than the FingerTech wheels, so that was a nice upgrade. So let's see, the drive system now has smaller wheels, weaker motors, and less voltage going through it. Now, while the old Highlander's drive system was very fast and zippy, the newest version was kinda, well, not so much. But anyway, since I'm incapable of getting a robot done on time, a lot of things were rushed. I was originally going to print the arm out of ABS since I was out of time, but luckily for me, Stanley Bohenick was kind enough to actually CNC me a brand new UHMW arm the night before the event. So Stan, if you're watching this, thank you so much. Alright, let's switch over to Gimli. If you look at this picture, you can see the old version from Robo Games, and here is the latest version that fought at Motorama. Lots of changes were made in this version, but I'm actually making an entire build montage for Gimli, and that video will be coming out in a few weeks, so I'd rather save that information for that video. So now let's get into the fights. My first fight of the event was with the Highlander, my 1-pounder. Its first opponent was Bered, a vertical spinner. I had fixed all the air leaking problems from AVC, so I was finally able to just flip, and flip it did. I was able to flip Bered over and over and over again, where I eventually pinned him up against the wall, and the win goes to the Highlander. Highlander is now up again against another vertical spinner named Hit or Miss. After pushing each other around for a little bit, I managed to get the scoop under him and land a nice flip, but he lands a really solid hit on my arm and that causes it to break. Turns out that I drilled the pilot holes for the scoop a little bit too big, so the threads just kind of popped right out. Then he landed another nice hit on the arm, but this time it didn't come back into its spot. But I was able to get the weapon back in place by turning around and having him slap the arm, and that sort of flopped it back into its position. This would let me get off another flip or two, and then it would kind of undo itself again, and then I'd try to figure out a way to get the arm back, and then I'd flip him again. This kind of kept going on until I was able to get him upside down in the corner, where he ended up getting stuck for the rest of the match, and Highlander wins again. Now it's finally Gimli's turn. My 150-gram spinner's first fight is against Skeeter from Hell, a simple 2-wheel drive wedge. Right away it just turned into a shoving match, and I noticed my weapon wasn't spinning. I was having problems with getting it to start up. It kind of would just sputter unless I pushed the throttle up really slowly. But then it did spin up.
I was literally going to say, oh, Gimli's up to speed now. What is Skeeter going to do? It turns out, take a ride to the ceiling. Here's the answer.
The rest of the fight goes on with Gimli landing a few more solid hits here and there, but eventually the fight ends and Gimli wins by a judge's decision. Up next is what was by far my favorite fight of the event. The Highlander is against Ratfish, a very powerful servo flipper, which means this fight is flipper versus flipper, pneumatic versus servo. We both got lots of good flips in, we were able to flip ourselves back over, there was just so much flipping. In the end it went to a judge's decision where the Highlander was victorious. Now Gimli is up against Mark again with his ferryweight Bugfish. Bugfish is just like Ratfish, it's a very powerful electric flipper, and he uses that flipper right away to flip me up on my face right off the bat, but since he's such a great sport, he flipped me back over and we were able to continue the fight. The match continued on until it went to a judge's decision where Gimli is the victor. Now the Highlander is back up again, this time against Low Blow, one of the most feared horizontal spinners in the entire antweight division. It becomes immediately apparent that the 3D printed Onyx frame wasn't going to be as strong as I had hoped, as Low Blow completely dents in one of the right wedges, hits me again and the wedge is completely sliced off. Low Blow then proceeds to take off a wheel and then land hit after hit on Highlander until I'm forced to tap out. Highlander is now in the loser's bracket. Now Gimli is up against Sparkplug, a simple two-wheel drive wedge. I wasn't really able to do much because of my weapon problems, so most of the fight was him just shoving me around the arena. Then eventually he gets under me and tosses me over, and I do the thing.
It did the thing.
I am unable to self-right and get counted out. Gimli is now in the loser's bracket. Highlander is now up against Vile Ant, a very similar robot to Low Blow, and very similar results happen, but this time I'm just going to let the first few seconds speak for themselves.
Okay, that came straight at my face. Hooray for Lexan!
Oh my god!
Highlander's gonna have to really careful. Oh no! There goes the air tank. Wait a minute. Hang on a minute. Vile Ant. I need. Oh, there we go. Okay.
So Vile Ant isn't quite dead, as it continues to drive, and we both have an awkward shoving match with both of our weapons being disabled and the Highlander dragging its entrails around the arena.
I'm gonna poke you. You ready for a pokey?
Oh my god, you might actually win this!
Then after a very long and brutal minute, the fight ends and goes to a judge's decision, where the Highlander wins. I didn't believe it either, but the Highlander won due to equal damage and the Highlander showing more aggression. The Highlander was able to win even with its guts spilled out. If I were judging this fight, I wouldn't have given it to me, but apparently the judges thought that my aggression made up for the lack of damage, and what the judges say goes. Alright, now Gimli is up against Paw Print, a 3D printed horizontal spinner.
Let's go, Gimli. Bounce him off the roof.
Immediately I get stuck between the two panels, and I was worried that I would be stuck here, but luckily I did manage to wiggle free after a while. Once the weapon is up to speed, I'm able to take off one of his wheels, and then eventually his whole weapon assembly breaks. Then soon after, he taps out, and it's another win for Gimli. After Highlander's last fight, it is now about 30% duct tape and barely holding itself together. I was excited to see that my next fight would be against a wedge. In fact, it was one of the wedgiest wedges, Slim Pickens, built by Nate Franklin of Mutually Assured Destruction. I noticed that my arm wasn't working. Looking after the match, I realized that I had forgotten to put a part on after my last fight. There's a little plate that goes between the two arms on Highlander, and that's what the cylinder pushes on. Without that there, the cylinder was just firing between the arms and not actually lifting anything. So after a very preventable mistake on my part, it is now a wedge versus wedge fight. After a very long, very slow 3 minutes of Highlander getting shoved around all over the arena, the victory goes to Slim Pickens by judge's decision. I was really kicking myself at first for Highlander not being able to fight at its full potential, but once you factor in how fantastic of a driver Nate is, as well as how slow my robot is, and the wedgelets that Nate had on the front of his robots that kept my lifter arm from getting under him, I really don't see the fight going my way anyway. And with that, Highlander is now out of the event after going 4-2. And that just leaves Gimli going up against Scooter, a horizontal spinner. This fight was really entertaining. There was a lot of big hits. Scooter even did a backflip to jump over me and strike from behind. But after one particular hit, Gimli does what Gimli does, and that's getting stuck on its face. Unfortunately, I was counted out, and Gimli is now out of the tournament. But regardless, Gimli was still able to snag 3rd place in the Ferryweight division. And that concludes Motorama 2018 for Team Small Robots. If you have any questions or want to leave some feedback, please leave a comment down below, and if you like what you saw, please subscribe for more.